So, hi Ronald, what was your first computer?
I think it was a Pentium. I don't know what anymore. One of the first Pentiums.
Okay, cool. And what you did with it?
Well, it was used related for a school project, and we used the printer port to control different three motors, stepper motors, and we created a 3D scanner with it.
So no gaming involved, right?
No. I'm definitely not a gamer.
So how you got interest on the computers? Was it a school assignment, so you had to buy it, or was more interest? Oh, you wanted to create something.
I like to create something. I like to build stuff. I like to, yeah, it was not, it was definitely not only because of the assignment, but it's, that's the things I like to do. It's, with code, we write executionable fiction in my eyes.
Okay.
And, that's something I really like.
Yeah. And you wanted to build something particular?
The possibility to build something, and the 3D scanner was one thing we built. Is there others? Even now, I'm still building all kinds of stuff with microcontrollers and the ESP32s.
Hey, cool.
Just for hobby.
You built a scanner or a printer, 3D scanner?
3D scanner, yeah.
And the stepper motors, were they like Lego Mindstorms, or what was it?
No, it was. There were some industrial motors we got from a company.
Cool.
And we could use them for assignments. And yeah, no, it was not Lego. It was really heavy duty stepper motors.
So it's a huge machine, right?
Yeah. It was. I'm sitting now at a table of 1x2. I think it was half of the table.
Okay. Some of you could get injured, right?
Yeah, the motor definitely was strong enough because it was a motor with the special kind of axis, which is really, really strong. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to put your finger between.
Okay. And which programming language you used to program the stuff?
That was C++.
Wow. Okay.
Dreadful C++.
Yeah, but you knew how to program back then, or was it?
It was related to the school project also. We got a teacher who helped us a little bit, and okay. That's how I learned it. And the fun part was I got it all working, and then the teacher said, "Okay, now delete everything and start over."
Why?
And it's called refactoring.
Ah, but this is not deleting. Refactoring is not about deleting instead over.
Yeah, right? Correct. But back then it was my first intro to refactoring because you know how to do it now.
Okay.
And the good stuff was by deleting everything, you had a blank sheet and you could we could do it better.
Okay. When was it? 1997?
No. This was 2000, I think.
Oh, then you got a better Pentium. So I think I got my first Pentium. I think it was around 1995 or 6. And what I remember, I also wanted to have one, and I bought the Pentium 90, and there was another one, 75, so this is why I know 90, and then there was like 133 and 166 and so forth, but and so I think it was, you got a better Pentium then.
That's possible.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll look it up after the.
No, it's not that interesting. So this just this is interesting which machines we had back then, right? So comparing to today.
Yeah, it was still one with a floppy disk.
Yeah, exactly. And what school was it? Was it like high school or what kind of?
It was it was an industrial engineer school.
Okay.
Yeah.
What you're doing as an industrial engineer? So I have no idea. So were you supposed to build machines afterwards, or? There
are different types of directions in the industrial engineer university where I went, and I chose for electronics and ICT, and that's how I went to the development. In fact,
which city was it?
It's Diepenbeek.
Okay.
It's a small city in Belgium near Hasselt.
Okay. Nice. And you enjoyed programming more or the interaction with the robot?
I enjoyed programming more, but I also like the interaction. It's cool to build something that you can see in real life move.
Yeah. And your first programming language was C++.
Yeah.
Cool. Mine as well. No, Basic, but my real one was C++ and C. Okay, cool. And then what you did with? So what was your first project was the 3D scanner. What happened afterwards? Yeah. So have you built something else or?
Afterwards, yes, we switched also to Java, and with Java, that was my assignment. We have a big railway station in Brussels, and there we needed to make something that when a door doesn't open or when an elevator is having troubles, that we had, using SVG back then. We had a complete layout of the railway station, and that the operators of the station could see, there is a problem over there.
Okay.
So that was my real intro into Java back then.
This was still at school?
This was my final assignment, yeah.
And was it actually used at the train station?
We did a test, and I don't think it was actually used. It was in combination with a company that worked for the railway station, and I don't know. I don't think so, to be honest.
I think you know what I think. The company just sold this for millions. You know, they told you this was crap, and they took it and sold it, for 10 millions. And
it's possible. It's possible. But I still hear them once in a while. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, cool. And you enjoy Java actually?
Yes. It was much more appreciated after all the C++.
Oh, really? So
yeah.
I was fascinated by C++, and as Java came out, I with Oak, so it was a little bit earlier, but I didn't like it a lot because what I appreciated in C++ was the headerfiles. I don't know, I like them, that there is something like an API, and then you can use them, include H or whatever, and I also like the C in and C out, and operator overloading. I like to tinker with that, so I try to overload everything just for fun. But and in Java there was no operator overloading, no C in and C out. You couldn't in C++. You could even overload, the how to call it, the operators, the C in and C out. The greater operators and What was
less the greater, less than.
Yeah. Cool. And so you like Java? Which technology you used at the train station? So SVG, so probably Batic, right? I assume.
Batic, yeah, indeed, SVG, Batic, and we also created something, and that's something they liked. You could declare your UI using XML files. Back then, it was quite new, and we processed the XML file, and depending on the user profile, you got a different layout of what you can see and stuff like that.
Now you would use YAML, and spend 3 times as long as XML back then. Okay. So you start in the XML the profiles or the actually layout of this train station?
No, we really stored the complete layout. So we made something that's we parsed the complete XML file, and if it said button, we would show a button on the.
It was the entire UI was in XML.
Yeah.
You are aware of it's actually dead right now, but it was Firefox or Mozilla Zul with XUL, so you could define the entire user interface with XML.
Yeah. Indeed, it was something like that, but I wouldn't do that again, to be honest. It was the XML was quite bloated when you added a lot of. The good thing is the most part of the screen was the SVG viewer with the layout of the railway station, but even then, all the extra buttons, it added a lot of code to the XML to the XML file.
But you serialize probably Java objects to XML, right?
We parsed the XML, and then depending on the type of XML thing we encountered, we instantiated a new button or a new.
Okay. So it was not like you had for every element in XML a Java class. It's more like you had processor.
No, we did. No, we did.
Okay, then it was more or less you use xtreme or such
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Incredible. So, usually you would start with Hello World, and you started with 2 interesting projects. So
that was during the classes, of course, but that was the end assignment after 4 years of studying. So it could be a little bit more than Hello World.
Okay, and in your leisure, you did something as well, or just?
Back then it was more windsurfing and
windsurfing in Belgium.
Yes.
Where?
We had a big lake next, a couple of kilometers from our home, and there it was excellent to windsurf. And once in a while we went to Holland to windsurf also.
So you wanted to become a pro, or just?
No. That was leisure.
Oh, so you really wanted to one time become a pro windsurfer?
No, the windsurfing was pure for leisure. It was to get a fresh hat once in a while.
Okay, so the last project was the train station. What happened afterwards?
Then, it was time for the real life and to go to work. And I started out in the content management world, enterprise content management world.
Mm-hmm. Which company?
Amplexor. It's a Leuven-based company. They're now they got a lot bigger by now.
Okay, and still Java.
It was a combination of Java and close your ears, a VB script.
Oh, this is an interesting combination.
Yes.
How you can actually combine Java with VB script?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the content management system we often had to implement was Tridion. Mm-hmm. And using Tridion itself was all .NET. No, it wasn't back then. It was not yet .NET, but all Microsoft kinds of code. And we had to use VB script to generate GSPs.
From that, okay.
Yeah.
But in one point of time, I remember something right now. At Java 1, there was a project announced, but I think it never went live. This was, I think, even Visual Basic or Visual Basic Script interpreter for Java. You remember that?
Yeah.
I forgot the name. We have to do some research because it was a huge announcement and then somehow it disappeared.
Yeah. Happens sometimes with all this all these new frameworks and all these new languages.
Yeah, cool. And then you joined the company? You work there?
Yeah. We had a lot of fun projects. I got the opportunity to travel a lot. We went to Australia and New Zealand to start off banks together with we did the website part, and
cool.
We integrated with the backend. So no, it was definitely fun times.
So then you quit.
And then I became a freelancer.
Are you still freelancer?
Yes.
So from there until now, you are freelancer right now?
Yeah, so it's 12 years almost now that I'm freelancing.
Not bad. So 2008 you quit and then you are happy hacking.
Yeah. I quit at the enterprise content management company, but it was too busy, and I could continue I continued for a couple of years there as a freelancer because it was a nice place to work.
Okay.
And then afterwards I really quit.
Okay. But 2008 it was the crisis as well, right? With the
that was the fun part. The reason I became a freelancer was that I could start as a Java developer at a big Belgian bank. Mm-hmm. Contract was signed, and 3 months later, when I was supposed to start there, they suddenly said, "Yeah, all the contracts we signed, I'm sorry, but they don't start." Mm-hmm. And I was lucky enough that I could continue at the company where I used to work. I continued for a couple of years there.
Mm-hmm. This is how important contracts are, right?
Yeah. You can't. It depends whether you're Goliath or David, and sometimes choose your battles. And
and I don't think you regretted your decision, right?
No. Still enjoying it. It makes me do the things I like to do, and yeah, if you the free, it gives me a lot more freedom.
Okay, cool. And what you did in the last 12 years? I mean, some fun project we can take. I'm also a freelancer, so for me, I never mention my projects because mostly of NDAs. That's the problem. I never know what I can tell. But if you can tell us something, then go ahead. So what was a project? What was your, area of operation? So you spent probably some time with Java, hopefully.
Yes. And I'm lucky that I didn't need to sign too much NDAs, so I can surely tell a little bit about it. So the first project was for the Flemish government, where we made, in fact, Tinder, a Tinder-like platform, but for job seekers and employers.
Okay. I was already curious how it turned out.
Yeah. Most of the time I say we made a dating platform, but for job seekers and employers.
Hey, from the abstract point of view, it could be even worse than the actual Tinder. Know what you are saying right now?
Definitely.
Yeah. No, but you mean real employers and job seekers, right?
Yeah. Real employers and job seekers. And it was a lot of fun, because back then I thought I knew Java, and I was lucky enough to arrive in a really, really good team.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from these guys, to be honest, because I remember it was all the time XP was rather new, and they really embraced it. So the guy next to me, on my first day, he said, I'm going to write a unit test, and then you can implement it and write the next unit test. So he writes his tests. He hands me the keyboard, and my hand was going to the mouse, and he slapped my hand and he said, we don't use the mouse here.
Cool.
And each day they taught me some new shortcuts on the keyboard, and it made my productivity so much better that I really still thank these guys for that opportunity.
This is great. That's really great.
So,
I also tried that. And but for instance, Visual Studio Code?
Yes.
So yesterday, I wanted to switch between terminals in Visual Studio Code. So you have multiple terminals, and there is no shortcut for that, So I was too lazy to create one, because creating new shortcuts is always painful, because they always collide with existing ones, and I had to think. And for this small thing, I need a mouse, which really annoys me. So this is but you should be. I think this was a great advice, because you can save a lot of time, if you memorize all the shortcuts and stuff. Yeah.
Definitely, it made my productivity go double in a couple of months.
Cool. Yeah, but you did the positive experience with XP. My experiences with the whole Agile and XP was more like people wanted, the fashion out of that, but they didn't embrace it really. So they love to talk about XP and Agile. And we spent time in countless meetings discussing something, but this was absolutely pointless. And and for me it was always the XP and Agile was more or less obvious. I mean, you cannot just do something in waterfall; it doesn't work at all, and nothing works in waterfall manner. So it is always iterative. And and that's basically it, right? So, but in your case, they did even more with that. And also, the stuff writing unit tests first, I not always do it. Sometimes it really depends on the situation. And this, the how to call it, the dogmatic way, this is what I don't like. Because if someone tells you have to always do it, okay, so always, there is never always. So you can say do it 80% of the time, and this is what it costs a lots of damage, the whole dogmatic stuff. I remember one project, the guys tried to generate everything. And if you try to generate everything, the generator have to be perfect. And they spend many years just to fix the generator, So this is always, the dogmatic way never works. But now, cool. Which company was it, the guy from the company, you know it?
Yes, it was Segeka. It's they are also now working in Germany quite a lot.
Okay.
And yeah, they really embraced all the XP, and it's really, I mean, they did it really well, to be honest.
Cool.
It was a really great intro in Agile and TDD and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the Tinder stuff is still working?
I think it still is working. Yeah, it's over 10, 11 years old, and they're still doing its job. Yeah.
Perfect. Interesting. Next one. I'm really curious about what you did.
Okay. I worked a couple of years there, and then I went to Belgacom or Proximus. It's the largest telecom provider of Belgium.
Okay.
And oh boy, I came from an excellent way of working with tests, and it made a lot of sense. And then my first day there, they said, yeah, if you want to compile the code, you have to do maven clean install -d DskipTests is true.
Okay.
I didn't sleep for 3 days, 3 nights, to be honest, because how you don't have any fallback at all, or no safety net. I quickly decided then to delete all the tests which were failing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started re-implementing everything with some extra tests always, because this without them, you're shooting at deer that's moving, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And this did a lot.
So you are extreme XP guy with unit test experience. So I'm programming something for me right now, and the something is a new block engine which I will actually use.
Mm-hmm.
And probably I have, I would say, 10% or 20% of unit test coverage. But what I have is, I would say probably 80 to 100, I didn't measure that, coverage of black box system tests. So what I'm doing is I'm testing, always the remote API.
Yeah.
And if something is harder to test because you cannot, for instance, right? So if you create a post, the title has to be compatible with URI. And this is painful because, you have to replace special characters or whatever. For this, I've wrote unit tests, of course, because via the system test will be too slow. So I'm misusing unit tests to gain, productivity and speed. And the real tests are always black box tests because And what I see in projects right now is the inverse, strategy. What they are doing, they are unit testing everything that they have a test coverage 100%, and there's absolutely no black box tests. So, and I ask myself, this is absolute crap. What you are doing here? For instance, what I noticed, sometimes my HTTP status codes are not right per accident. You will never catch it with unit tests, because there was some exception happened. There's internal server error, with really crappy headers and whatever. And I immediately saw that, okay, it broke my test, so I fixed that. And I think I'm very, very productive with that. What's your opinion on such an approach?
I completely agree. Normally, they say you should have the testing pyramids. A lot of unit tests, integration tests, blah, 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 end-to-end tests. I don't agree with that. I think you should go to an obelisk, where you have it's perfect possible that you have the same amount of integration tests and the same amount of unit tests, or even less unit tests.
Yeah.
Often, when you need to refactor, you also have to refactor all your unit tests.
Yeah.
Which doesn't add any productivity. So why test the boundaries like you do with black box testing? And
perfect. So I'm really happy because you have a complete different experience than I have. I never saw actually working XP project. So really, guys, they were more about, I was a little bit annoyed by the whole XP because I was not very lucky. So this was my experience like with your company. And the Agile and XP were mostly driven by guys like Scrum Masters, which didn't have a lot of, motivation to be a good programmer rather than they enjoyed, the entire agile movement. So, and wanted to have
make a lot of money of it.
The certifications, and they talked about the velocities and all the stuff. Is okay, everything is great, but the source code also counts sometimes, and this real XP, this was like, in your case, what I really appreciate, this is more like, okay, we were already agile or iterative, now do it better and apply XP on top of that, and then get the less 10% more productivity, which is great. Or even, this is what I appreciate. So I'm happy that you also see this with the system tests, because for me, I never got it. And I saw so many projects failing or not failing, too slow, the whole refactoring and the pyramid. I asked the question several times and no one could explain me why it is so important to have that pyramid. I think if you would implement a game, right? So then the logic is so complicated that the unit test absolutely makes sense, because you will have unit tests everywhere. But we are mostly writing software which writes to databases is not that complicated. So, and therefore the pyramid doesn't matter, because you will end up, invoking getters and setters and constructors. Very cool. So, how long you stayed in the project without tests? So you fix everything? So, or
in the beginning there were no tests there, like we said, and then it took 1.5 years to get the project. Luckily we had SonarQube back then already. And it was 60,000 lines of code, and when we re-enabled all the tests that were working, I think we had like 6% coverage.
Okay.
And after 1.5 years, we reduced the code to 40,000 lines of code, added new functionality, and we had 40% coverage.
Yeah, very good. So I can imagine what the code base was, right? Lots of mappers and DTOs, interfaces, impulse, factories, abstract factories, and configurators, right?
Yeah. I think we joined. We did say projects or so.
No, but this is what I sometimes see. If you, what I sometimes said is, if you have a huge project, you can always split it in half. You can throw away 50% of the source code, and it is going to be better than before. And recently, so I asked myself how it happens that all the projects, the bigger projects are organized the same way. So you have stupid packages like exceptions, enums, foundation, domain.
Yeah,
it has no association with business logic, And you have it as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know why? Why it happens that all the projects are organized similar way, like they have DAOs, DTOs. So this is like bureaucratic design, what I tell. So just don't make me think. You have one package called interfaces, put all interfaces there. One package called entities, all entities there. You know why?
The architecture decisions with architectures that don't code. I don't know.
Yeah, but if you think about this, the architect or designer, whoever is in charge, she or he, they can only structure or predefine structure which is not business structure, because they don't know upfront, what the names are. So the only chance they have to create a template which is pointless, we know this is Java, so probably you will need mappers and configurators, and they do it. But this causes a lots of trouble. So I think with it is impossible to create a template which is business-like, because if they will say in a telecommunication company, like they have antennas or clients or whatever, so he cannot know it in advance. That's the problem.
Correct. I wonder why all the developers always go along with it.
Less and less. So in my world, really, this is why I do a lot of front end. So I say, so in Jakarta, in MicroProfiles or projects, so recent, it is more or less solved. So it looks really better and better, and everyone is productive and really happy. And to the degree, I don't know whether you heard about Quarkus, for instance.
Yeah.
Sometimes if I know, they ask me what's new, and I tell them about Quarkus. They try it out. It's okay, it's great, but Whitefly or Payara are good enough. So this is like not like they are super excited. the super excitement happens in company who either have, virus scanners running and the deployment takes 5 minutes, or they just completely exaggerated the architecture and the war is like, 20 megs big. Yeah, cool.
I still don't know. What I still see here in Belgium, the last project I was on was microservices related. And for me, it's the big ball of mud effect just got even bigger.
Yeah.
Because all the mappers and stuff, here in Belgium, it's not solved actually. We tend to still overkill all our solutions and create a backend for frontend, which is just doing mapping without adding any extra value.
Okay. But okay, so we can still do something about that. So
yeah,
how long you spend at the company?
At the company back then with the telecom, it was 1 year and a half.
Okay, and which technology were used? Java E or?
No. It was just Java and Tomcat. Java EE is not that. That's what I also find amazing. There is a lot of regional differences between the use of Java EE and. I see it's a lot more important in Germany than it is here in Belgium.
Okay, that's interesting. And so, what you did instead?
We just used plain Java and Tomcat, and we deploy. I only encountered Java EE once in my whole career, to be honest.
Okay.
And it was for the Belgian government, and it was even in when I still was doing the content management stuff.
Okay. And you built everything from scratch on Tomcat?
We did a lot of stuff with back then. It was a lot of stuff from scratch. Yes.
But this is why a huge amount of work actually.
Yeah, it's true. But this was in 2000 and let me think, 10 or something.
Okay.
2010, 11. All the EE wasn't as mature back then as it is now, to be in my eyes, I think.
I think since 2006 we got Java E5, which was great for me. So since then, I really was convinced that this is the way to go. Back then, prior to annotations, we had to use lots of XML, and there was actually no solution to fix it. So we generated the XML with Xdoctor, we tried to write it, but you had always, the truth was in two places. So you had, during refactoring, you have to refactor the XML and the Java classes, and this was painful. So So what I wanted to have, transactional refactoring. So either I refactor something and it should work, and this was really painful. But then since 2006, it worked well. And in Belgium, so this is surprising because I was invited to Belgium several times to the DevOps and Arus conference. And they were always full, and the developers came to me and explained me. So for me, it seemed like Belgium is Java E is very popular, because the sessions were full, and the people came to me and told the war stories about Java E and whatever. So
it's strange because I already did 10 projects, and I never encountered it in real life.
Okay. Yeah. So what you did?
The wrong projects.
Okay. No, wrong. The difference is people come to me because they want to have Java E. So for me, this is like I only see Java E MicroProfile right now. This is the funny stuff. And I wanted to do something else at the beginning, but it never worked. So my hope was, in one point, Java E is going to be too slow, and I can use Scala or whatever, but it never happened. So it was always good enough. This was my problem a little bit. So this is a little bit, boring, right? So now, cool. So what else you did? So this was the, what else, other projects which you liked or interesting?
Then I had another fun project, and you probably, I always hear a lot of biased views about it. I went to .NET development for a while.
Okay.
So the reason was that I worked on a tender for a big project, and the company wanted to have .NET only. They are .NET only, so I decided, okay, let's learn .NET.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I was quite amazed about the maturity and the open source community in .NET these days.
Mm-hmm. These days was 2011, 12.
No, this was 2000. This was a couple of years later. This was 2014 or something, 2015.
Okay. Yeah, in one point of time, everything was almost open source. So the open source became to be a default. Mm-hmm. As the Satya Nadella started at Microsoft, so everything changed.
Yeah, indeed. It was .NET Core was just released. It was about to be released. It was a little bit too early though to start developing already in .NET Core. But there are, for example, two libraries that I used in .NET, which were not available in Java, which I really, really love. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you know Jimmy Bogart.
Probably no.
No, he created a library called Mediatr, and I love it, Saleh. It's like what your Java EE is for you. That's what the Mediatr library is for me.
Okay. And so you are a C# developer right now?
No, I'm doing both. I don't care anymore for which language it is, whether it's Java, .NET, or Python. That's just semantics.
And the Mediatr library, what it does is like backend?
It's for backend, and what you do is it allows you to decouple your API, your REST API from your services, because all the projects I always went to is you had these service classes which were thousands of lines long, and it was dreadful to do anything with them. And the Mediatr library is what you fire a request, and then you have a handler class, which is typically under 100 lines of code, and it's a one-to-one mapping, and it allows you just fire the request, and you get a response back, and it's done, and you only have one dependency in your API, for example. You only import a Mediatr.
This is like Java E. I wanted to say this is like Java E. I wanted to say tatsächlich. Okay. No, this is German. This is indeed, right?
Yeah. And what's the equivalent in Java E?
In Java you have or MicroProfile. Let's say you have one dependency. It will be MicroProfile. That's basically it. And your service classes would be POJOs or POCOs in your case, plain old C# classes. And there are two approaches in my project. So if the project is simple, you can put some annotations on service classes and you are done. But what usually happens that the POJOs, they return, for instance, other POJOs which are serialized to JSON. Like you would like to have a POJO, like, get calendar items, and you get a calendar item back, for instance. And the REST layer, you would probably like, not to return the calendar item, rather than a response with headers and status code and the calendar item. So the first layer is more or less like JAX-RS. This is the API, and it comes with annotations like get, media type, produces, consumes, and so forth. And this calls injected POJO. So basically, for a simple microservice, you will need two classes in Java E or MicroProfile. And Java E and MicroProfile both are the same. So what I'm talking about, this is like, because there is some intersection, and we are right in the intersection called JAX-RS and CDI. This is hyper productive. This is why I like it. And you have one dependency, exactly one. This is the MicroProfile dependency.
It depends if I think your REST layer is really bounded correctly. Otherwise, if you have multiple dependencies, you still only inject the MicroProfile object, or
you not inject. You declare MicroProfile in Maven, and then you have the API, and then you ship it to a runtime. And the runtime implements the API. So in MicroProfile, we have Quarkus, Halidon, OpenLiberty, Whitefly, Tommy, Payara, and a couple of others. And this is basically it. So the server is the runtime. And the cool story is you are not depending on the runtime. So you never depend on the actual mediator. You would only depend on the interfaces. And this is why I like in enterprise projects, this is my trick, why I'll do this, because I could actually use the implementation directly. But, people like to chat with me, whether I use Whitefly, Payara, whatever. And I say, look, it doesn't matter. We just start, and then later we can decide, and then the entire discussion is over. And this is great. And some clients have contracts with Red Hat, so they go to Whitefly. Others have Payara from Glassfish, from Sun, so they go to Payara. Tommy, there are some people who are using Tommy, Open Liberty, IBM. So this is then the whole management and politics is out of scope.
Yeah. But for me, there's still a difference, though, to be honest. Okay. Because I have some experience with Open Liberty and Quarkus also. But in your code, in your REST API, you still declare a dependency on your actual service class, no?
You inject the service class.
Yes, indeed. And with the mediatr library in .NET, you don't do that. In fact, how must I say it? You just have some kind of request object you send to the mediatr library, and the request is a generic type, and it says, I will return you this type of response.
Yeah.
And where it is, you don't care. You will get a response. But your REST API is completely, does not know almost anything about your service API. And it allows for really your REST API are often one-liners.
But at one point of time, you have connect both, right?
Yes, and that's when you deploy everything. They are there.
But if you deploy, you need XML or conventions that the request matches the right service, right?
That's the beautiful part of it. What happens is you fire off the request. Mediator knows about your CDI thing. It looks, I have this kind of request. Okay, I need this kind of service to have the response. And it will generate a response for you without you depending actually on the actual service.
Then we could probably even do this as well, but then it would be different. Then we don't need the first layer because we don't have the generic request and response. We say, okay, we would be more specific. We would only have the service layer, and I would put on the class path. This is a JAX-RS annotations like attributed, I think, in C#. And I say path / items, choose a method and say get, and I'm done. There's nothing else to do.
It all depends on the complexity of the project, I think.
Yeah, but this both work in huge project as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't get the benefit of this decoupling. So we have to talk more, the next time. But because it will be an interesting episode, mediator versus. This is more conventional, so you do nothing. You just say, okay, this should be a GET request, and everything happens automatically.
I can follow, but sometimes you have one project where we used the mediator library was to calculate the wages of people who work in construction.
Okay.
And here in Belgium, we have all kinds of laws that depending on the amount of days it rained, depending of the age, depending of the business rules were really, really difficult.
Okay.
And also there, because we needed to do a lot of calculations, the mediator thing helped us to keep our code really, really, really clean and tidy. Because we were a couple of Java developers and we all switched to .NET, and everybody said in the end they loved the mediator thing.
It's interesting because if they love it, we could do something similar in Java. The question is, what would be the benefit? I still don't get it, because calculations, what I would do, I would expose a service with the path like calculations, let's say, then accept via post a JSON object, which has like command pattern, which has, all whatever you said. And then the REST layer is done. Then you need a service layer, money calculator, whatever, and it expects this JSON, It could be typed with JSONB or hashmap-like with JSONP. And then I only need unit test to test that. So I'm done.
I agree. But what will happen typically is that the service class will become huge.
Yeah. And then, exactly. I get you. That's the difference. The service class is the boundary in my case, in my point of view. And the boundary is just a facade. So if it becomes too large, the responsibility of programmer is to move out the logic into controls and inject the controls to the boundary. And I assume that this is the job of the mediator, right? So there is no...
The mediator thing forces you to automatically split off classes each time you have a new type of request, whereas typically people just add it to the existing service and don't think about, it's time to decouple it or to pull it out in another class. The mediator library forces you to do it.
Because it only understands commands, right? It only understands classes with one method, more or less.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay, so now I got you. So this is, okay. So in my world, we have facades and the controls. And this is the responsibility of the programmer to introduce controls in case the boundary grows too big. And in your world, there will be never a boundary, just controls, and they are only one method long because they have matched the requests, right?
Typically they do, indeed. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
The reason why I also like it, he also has some great webinars, Jimmy Bogert. He, for example, tends to put his API, so his REST layer, right next to his domain.
Okay.
So, code that belongs together should be together.
Yeah, absolutely, with him. So this is absolute agreement here.
Yeah. So, and that's why I felt lucky to do both Java and .NET, because now I see the best of two worlds.
Yeah.
And I can relate. And I still don't understand why Spring or perhaps you guys with MicroProfiler don't create the concept like the mediator thing, because it's really.
If the block engine is done, I can show you this. This is not that complicated, but this is very simple. And I think what happens, so in my projects, what I see is we write so little code, so I cannot imagine to get it in any simpler. No, there's no magic involved. The suspicion what I have with mediator, there's a little bit more magic, and it could be even simpler. But I don't have to argue in my projects why I'm using Java E or MicroProfile, because it's there. If this would be part of MicroProfile, then go ahead, Renaud. But if this is additional library, forget it. So I'm a freelancer as you. I will have to argue against everyone, and they will show their libraries, and then I will spend the entire day in meetings. And now I say, okay, we have nothing. We have no dependencies. Just go ahead, and we are productive. So this is. Interesting thought. I will think about this and take a look if in real world projects whether we could optimize something here, because doable is of course such a thing. I still don't get how the mediator knows which method to invoke at the end of the day. There should be a mapping.
It's easy because the whole mediator library is just 8 or 10 classes or something. So it's not magic. And what it expects you to do when you fire up a request, it's in your IOC container or your CDI thingy to have a class which implements an interface, and it will be that method from that interface that is called, and voila.
Yeah, but there will be 500 classes which implement this interface, right?
Yes, but by having, it knows the requests. Yeah, so it can go look up the correct handler for that.
So the request is typed.
The request is typed, yeah.
But then you have lots of requests, so you have to create. You have to create an interface, a particular implementation, and a request object for that.
Yes, but for me the requests are all one line of. Yeah, I understand your concern. Typically, what we do is in Sharp and the handler, for example, and the requests are in the same file. So in C# you can have multiple classes in the same file.
Yeah.
So they're really next to each other. And the requests it's often just one liner. It's a constructor with the input you expect, and that's it. Yeah. And then your handler takes the things and does its magic.
What I thought, and I thought what I saw last year, and the project was in Netherlands, and they did a huge refactoring, and I think they also had contact with the library, but they tried to translate it to Java. And what they did is they said, okay, this will like the how it's called orthogonal architectures, where you have six sides, 6 adapters, but actually you only need one. Okay, yeah. And but what they did is, they used events for that. So for me, request and event are very similar. So but in Java it was terrible, because you had so many events and so many classes that it was like a huge amount of mapping going on. So what could work, I think, is in Java, instead of using type request, using annotations. So that you have like explicit mapping, because the request is always the same. So it only contains the name of the path. So we have already this request, and then map it.
For me, what I would do is in your REST layer, in your API layer, already map the request to the actual, to make sure that it's not JSON anymore. In my handler, I don't want to talk about JSON.
Okay, but if you know that it's JSON, even better, because you take, in my world, JSON B. You have a Java class with public attributes, and this basically it.
Yeah, indeed. That will be typically your request, for example.
Yeah, and response as well. Either void, null, or optional of type JSON-B.
Yeah.
Yeah, this what we can do, actually.
Yeah. I see. It would be fun to see it in your project once, and then I could show it in our project.
Yeah, we should, before we show it too often, we should build just a mediator, This is what you are, just a mediator's example. Because what you only need is a generic a JAX-RS boundary or whatever, which assumes that inside the request there is a JSON stuff, and it just maps to a JSON object, and we only need mapping like the path has to be mapped to our object type.
Yeah.
So there should be a convention, but if you have it, we have the mediator, and this could work because the JSON objects, the JSON-B, you would need anyway, because this is your domain objects. And this I mean, something like this could work, right? And it would work well. This is what I understand. So we have still a little bit of time. So you create a job runner.
Yes.
Very briefly, I think I will re-invite you the next time so we can talk about that more deeply. But for now, why you created a job runner?
Because it was the other library I really liked in .NET, that's Hangfire, and it was not there yet in Java. And I thought, why not build it instead of waiting for it to appear? And it's one of the things we really depend on in a lot of projects we do. And it allows you to you want to run some long running job in the background. You just call a method with a lambda, and it will be serialized to JSON in your storage. Can be a SQL or no SQL, and then different servers can start processing it.
And but you have some limitations what the lambda can be, right?
Yes, it cannot be a multi-line lambda for the moment, but for the rest, it should work rather well. Typically, it's when you want to call some service method or something that in your CDIs, you just call that method with parameters. You can add parameters, of course, or domain objects which you pass along, and these will all be serialized in the storage, and then.
So the added value of your job library is not the job execution, rather the lambda serialization, right?
Yeah, it's and the lambda serialization, and that you can just call it with a lambda. All the other frameworks to run background jobs force you to implement all interfaces and.
No, completable future in Java.
Yeah. I know. Completable future indeed, but then you can only run it on, for example, if the request comes in, you can only run it on your web server.
On the server where the request arrived.
Yeah, and if you want to offload work to another server, it's you have to write a lot of boilerplate code. You need to put it on an event bus or something.
Yeah, but what I still don't understand in your approach is if let's say I have a front-end server with your job runner library, and I'm executing Lambda, and in this Lambda, okay, this Lambda has to be self-enclosed, right? So there could be no invocations to something else. So the entire business logic has to be in the Lambda.
The Lambda you actually call, or the function you will call in the end, will contain your business logic indeed.
Yeah, and you are serializing the Lambda with custom magic to JSON.
It's ASM, the ASM library.
Okay. So now now this will work. So because if you have ASM, so you have the cool. That's actually cool.
And then the fun part is we needed to generate a lot of documents rather quickly. And what we now do is we just call the job runner thing. It creates a lot of jobs. Using Kubernetes, we scale the background servers to 10. It can be auto-scaling. And they just offload work from the database, and it gets fast. It gets done 10 times faster, and without you just have lambdas and your actual service classes. You almost not depend on job runner.
Yeah, well, what I first I just performed a very brief review of the job runner, and I only saw 2 or 3 dependencies like waiter or something. So you are using a very few dependencies, which is great because I hate libraries where you get the whole world downloaded. And so in your current project or current project you mentioned, how this worked is you had like a front-end facade. It just generates the request in ASMs, stores this in JSON in a central store. And then on the other side, the Kubernetes wakes up job processors, and they wake up and read from the database and perform the business logic. And then how the results are sent back to the user? No, they are just affecting the database, right?
Yeah, typically they only affect the database.
Yeah, cool. I did something similar, but complete different technology. So what I did in one project is Hazelcast, something like this. It's like distributed hash map.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do more. And what I did is there is a project Nashorn in JavaScript. And I implemented an interface with Nashorn. So you can actually implement Java interface with JavaScript. And the cool story is the Nashorn thing, JavaScript, is ASCII. So I stored, the entire script in Hazelcast. It was distributed to all nodes. And then I could execute any logic I wanted everywhere.
Yeah, correct.
So this was a simplistic project, but it worked well as well. So I was very curious how your code travels. Because if you're starting with class loaders, forget it. This is
doesn't
cool idea actually.
Thank you.
So you are a Java developer, a C# developer, and you have lots of nice projects. And about your approach, just using Java SE is even better. The problem in my world, Java SE is not sufficient. I have to use MicroProfile or Java E on top of it. But this is the next step. So, but if Java SE works, no problem.
Yeah, indeed. And it's now also supports JSON-B, by the way. So I tested the complete job runner on Quarkus, I think, and on Open Liberty. It's all you just include the job runner, and it has only dependency on ASM, and you're set to go.
Is it a Quarkus extension?
No, it's not a Quark. I'm currently looking with the people of Quarkus indeed because I have problem when I want to run it in native mode.
Yeah.
I have problems with the serialization, of course.
Yeah.
And I'm now looking with the people of Quarkus from Red Hat on how to solve it and to make sure it also works in native mode.
Yeah, what you should do, you should register to this like Quarkus extension challenge, so you can win some money. It starts right now.
I'm already registered.
Very good. Cool. Perfect. I would re-invite you back and talk about funny stuff because you have the experience from C# and .NET. And what I'm just curious about your time, because I spent all my time with Java and JavaScript. And it is really hard, for me, it would be hard to learn, .NET on top of it. So it's like, how are you doing this?
Well, the good thing was that I was just forced to do so.
Okay. So you forgot Java for this period of time, just full. Okay, this works in projects. Okay.
Yeah. And the good thing is, the Java world is now stabilized, I think, a little bit. So we here in Belgium, we always use Spring Boot and stuff. Once you know it, you're set to go. The same with the MicroProfile, the rather stable. So you can forget it about 2 years and come back, and it didn't change that much.
Yeah. This is why I really sticked with. This is actually why I started with J2E and Java E, because back then was impossible to understand all the servers. And if you knew the Java E, you could become, not expert, but someone at least who understands how it works. And then I can pick whatever server I like, and I didn't care about the vendor anymore. This was actually my motivation back then.
Yeah.
Hey, cool. So thank you. I would like to re-invite you back in few weeks or few months and talk about crazy stuff. And I will review or play a little bit with your job runner library. It looks like fun. And if it would become, the Quarkus extension, even better. I mean, this is fully integrated. And then if it is in Quarkus, what I would try in your case, try to make it in MicroProfile API.
Okay.
Because it is simple. So it is not a lot of to do, and the MicroProfile community, they are very open. So there is no some politic whatever. I think you could very easily create a API. An API would mean you would need probably PDF spec with ASCII doc, which is 10 pages, no more. Yeah. And then it would be even more interesting, because then your API could be used by several servers, and you could provide a default implementation, and the project with the default implementation is called smallrye.io, small rye.io, and this is the default implementations for MicroProfile, and this could be actually nice. So you can have your own something,
Okay, I'll look into it, but I first need to make sure that it actually will work in native mode, because otherwise I'm screwed, to be honest.
Yeah, native mode and dev mode, because without native mode and dev mode, it won't be an official Quarkus extension. There's like unwritten law. Yeah. And the dev mode is very simple to fix, but you have to be careful about the path, because it will pick different folders. So this is a little, but I spent a few nights with the Quarkus extensions. So at the beginning, it's an easy API, but hard to get at the beginning, right?
Yeah. The dev mode is already working, so I'm happy with that. But the native mode, I'm really scared, because I serialize stuff. I'm using a serialized Lambda. I don't know, and then you cannot serialize anything in. There is no serialization in native mode, so I'm talking to some guys from Red Hat on how to move along. So
cool.
It probably will be a build extension, and but I still don't see the trees through the forest, because you have often input coming from requests which you need, and I don't see how that will translate to build to the build extension of Quarkus.
The extension is just about telling Quarkus with dependencies you have, and exposing the runtime API. Is not about receiving the request. This is part of the API. So if you would like to intercept a request from somewhere, if you need the HTTP request, how this would work, that your extension will ask another extension to get the API. This is what.
But let's say you have a REST API which gets in an address, for example. That address you want to pass along to job runner. And to do that, I need some serialization magic, and I don't know if that will be how that will work in native mode, to be honest.
Yeah, but the REST API gets JSON-B object, and before that, it works with message body reader and message body writer.
Yeah.
These are the two classes which are serialized stuff. And if you hook before, And Quarkus would be the vertex layer. So it is responsible for deserialization. You get the raw data. I don't think you need the JSON object, right?
I prefer to have the address POJO, in fact, already. And then that address POJO, that I want to serialize to the centralized, to the storage, to the database. And there that's the problem I encounter for the moment.
Yeah, okay. But if the JAX-RS also runs in native mode, the class is already known. Has to be known.
That's true. That's true. That all works. But it's a serialized Lambda. It's in fact Java serialization, not JSON serialization.
Yeah.
It's really low-level Java serialization.
I don't see the problem now, but I'm not so deep into the weeds as you are. But I'm curious. I will re-invite you, in a few months, so you have time to think about this. And last question. You wrote me an email and said I don't like dependencies either. So how you found me actually?
How did I find you? It's a good question. I think one of your podcasts, one of your blog posts. I read one of your blog posts which told about that, and I that's one I really liked, and that's why.
Okay, cool. What was the post? You remember?
I need to look it up, but it was also related to too much dependencies and too much moppers, and
cool.
Perfect. Let's keep things simple.
Perfect. So what I'm glad right now. So you are from complete different environment than I, and we share some mindset. So which is really really nice. Perfect. Yeah. Where people can find you, hire you, or whatever. So.
Of course, in LinkedIn, they can find me, and that's I monitor my LinkedIn messages.
What's the LinkedIn URI? So what is it?
It's LinkedIn/Ronald.de Huizer. So be really easy.
Do you have blog, Twitter, or something?
That's then the Job Runner website. There you can also find stuff. But for the rest, I'm not. It's my first podcast. I also am not kind of a podcast listener, to be honest.
Okay.
But it's fun to do, and I'm blog posting just about Job Runner for the moment.
Okay. So podcast is just actually why I'm doing this, because it was way easier and faster for me to talk with you like that than exchange, 500 emails.
That's true. I understand.
So we have spent 1 hour. I learned something. Now I'm thinking about mediators.
But the mediator has perhaps a bad name but take a look about. I can highly recommend it. It's from a Java. I know the battles you fight to introduce a new library, but that's one it's so easy.
It could be also a part of MicroProfile,
Indeed. For me, it should be both Spring should include it and MicroProfile should include it, and it would make a lot of code a whole lot of easier in my eyes, and it would force developers to make the code easy.
Okay, perfect. So thank you. Enjoy the day, and bye.
Cheers.